Now, in some cases, what can happen is that there may be certain payments which are made to a caterer. Now, let's say there's a payer, and it is not that every payer is required to deduct TDS when they are making payment to a caterer, but generally a company which is making the payment, and more so in the case of an individual or an HUF which is liable to tax audit, if they are making the payment to a caterer or maybe a limited liability partnership for that matter, they are under an obligation to deduct TDS from the payments that they make for catering services. In this context, let's look at an example here. So the payer X made certain payments. Let's say the payer is X to Tasty Caterers Private Limited for catering foods and drinks for a party hosted by him. Now, there are two ways for which this party can be hosted. One is for exclusively for personal purpose. If the payment is made for catering services which are used exclusively for personal purposes, then the deduction for TDS under 194C will not be relevant. There's no TDS deduction there. But assuming that X is liable to tax audit and he has made the payment for business purpose, total payments made for this purpose was rupees 1,20,000 during the financial year 22-23. Now, generally, if the payment is greater than 30,000, or when I say 30,000, that's for the individual payment, or the total payment during the year are greater than 100,000, in such a case, the requirement to deduct TDS in this case arises. The rate of TDS for catering services for a company. So in this case, we know that Tasty Caterers Private Limited is a private limited company. The rate of TDS in such a case is 2%. So what is the rate and the quantum of TDS deductible on such payment made by X? Like I mentioned, we've assumed that the payment has been made for business purpose and therefore the obligation to deduct TDS is there. The rate of TDS is 2% because the deductee or the recipient is a private limited company. The total payment is 120,000 and therefore the tax which will be deducted will be 2% of 1,20,000, or in other words, 2,400 rupees.